Hey, I just arrived. I'm getting off the train right now. But I'll still be a minute because they are measuring the hydrogen pressure because of the turbulence we had on the way. Okay, no problem. I'm waiting by the taxi stop. I just arrived too. The system didn't recognize my fingerprint for some reason.
Hey there, can we get going?
Sure thing, which way?
Take a left right after the air freshener dispensers. Just give it a wide berth.
Why? Aren't we allowed to get close?
One of them got vandalized last week, so you'll get fined if you get too close. Okay, let's start the tour here in the street. This is a really interesting part of the 6th district.
Yeah, it does look amazing. Kinda like a big UFO sparking next to each other. I love all these green areas too. It must be great to be a kid here.
Well, the truth is that this part works very differently than you think. The insides of the houses are only made of service areas, and apart from that, everyone has their own little box, which they spend most of their time in. They can do anything in there: work, go to school, or even do sports. This means that not many people hang out on the streets anymore, except for a few elders. So many people live here that there is simply no other way to make it work. Practically everyone lives by themselves, right next to each other. At least they build hologram visitations within buildings. And one more fun fact, the surface you just thought was glass is actually a big monitor from the inside.
No way. And what's that good for? They don't even get any sunlight.
No, they don't, but the higher levels always get a sunny view, and they can't see the surrounding areas of the city. Anyway, we've just reached the so-called Kodai current, where you can find the only memorial of the old world, this tree. It survived some world war and even a revolution, but actually the big deal is that they haven't chopped it down over the past 30 years. That would have been very contradictory to the current propaganda. Maybe it's symbolic.
Sorry to interrupt, but by any chance do you know what's in that old lady's hand? What she's looking at?
Oh, someone asked me the same thing just the other day. I think it's called a newspaper? Anyway, maybe it's symbolic that it even survives this system.
Why would you say it like that? I've never been to such a developed city. You guys should be grateful.
It's really not that simple. Sure, when you look around you see shining lights and fortune, but don't think everyone has the same lifestyle. The other thing is that it really isn't a big delight to live out your whole life in a cabin, where they know of your every move, and that's what determines if the bread you make is cheap or expensive.
It's pretty hard to believe that anyone here is worse off. The whole city is the same.
Exactly, that's how you tourists all see it. See that row of houses over there? That's just a big monitor. Behind it, that's where the real city begins.
I can't believe it.
Look, I tell you a secret. If you're really curious, I can even show you. But we have to turn off all your devices, and I need to get you a mask. Are you in?
Yes, definitely.
Alright then. See that old escalator? Let's walk towards it, and when no one is looking, we need to run down. Sweet, no one noticed. An old train is going to pass by here any minute, but I need to signal the conductor for him to stop and take us along. Okay, here it is. On to Blaha.
What kind of place is this? Where did you bring me?
There you go. The air isn't so fresh now, is it?
Oh my gosh, you can't even see through the smog, and wow, is it hot. This really isn't the same standard I saw before. I can't believe my eyes.
No need to complain about the heat or air-conditioned streets. Come on, this way.
What the hell? This is a street? I can hardly fit.
Yeah, this used to be the Rákóczi Street, but by now it's been infested by all kinds of patchwork buildings. It's really inadvisable to go between them. Come on, let's just walk here on the side of the road. But here you can see something you haven't before. Kids playing football in the road, in all their glory.
All these colorful paintings on the walls, they're so interesting. They make all this misery feel so surreal. Kinda like in reality, there's more life here than on the other side. So people actually live in these rubbish tents?
Loads so, actually. Don't think these old buildings are any better on the inside. The walls between flats have been knocked out, and colonies of all sizes live in them. Basically like cavemen. If one of them doesn't have a good stop, he'll just grab 20 planks of wood and will build a little hut on the top of the building.
But how is it that this area became so detached from the other part of the city? What happened?
Well, long story short, around 30 years ago, when this whole digitalization progress began, many people loved it, but some did not. As the whole system began to develop, being a resident of the smart city came with more and more responsibilities. Many became skeptical. After a while, the inhabitants of the more constructed areas had loads of digital rules which they needed to follow. So the non-believers needed to shift further and further away from the development, and sooner or later they ended up here. As a result, the law completely disregarded this area from then on, and the only aim was to cover it from the outside. So this is how crime became an everyday thing, and this is how these slums came around. For example, Corwin Quarter over here was actually developed around 2020, and by now it has become an infamy of the city.
This is unbelievable. I never would have thought people actually live like this had we not come over here. And what is this big building complex?
This used to be the National University of Civil Services, but since all professions studied here are now done by robots, it's been completely deserted and is a huge illegal salvage yard. The black market has also taken over the building, and they sell all kinds of stuff for basically nothing, and all of which has been stolen from the rich neighborhoods.
This really is a super bizarre situation. The contrast is almost comical.
Believe me, it really isn't. But we just left the area. You can turn your devices back on if you like. This is the end of our tour. I hope you enjoyed the outing, and hopefully now you can go home with a more realistic picture of the place than most tourists.
Thanks for the tour, and for also bringing me here. I'm literally lost for words. It was unbelievable.